I had been involved with the charter schools at the time back in the early part of the last decade, when it was still kind of the frontier days of the school. There were not very many lenders that were interested in dealing with charter schools because they were kind of new and unproven and whatever, still a fad. And I just took it seriously and made it a point to find out how they really worked. I determined early that the DC Public Charter School Board really had its act together, because I'm looking at, okay, if I'm in a regulated industry, if I'm banking in a regulated industry, I want to know how effective the regulator is, because that will be part of my due diligence. And I also discovered that the other authorizers, not so much, that anything I did with their schools was going to take a lot more work on my part. And so I built a working relationship with the folks in the Charter School Board. I actually was asked to serve as a trustee for a school that was struggling in its first year. We got that turned around in the first year. And actually, my very first board meeting with that school was also another variation of the parent meeting, because I walked in, there were two board members. One was the board chair who had taken a job in New York and was flying back only for board meetings, and there was a parent. That was it. And it was me. They had a bunch of angry former teachers who had been fired, but made it a point to come back to every meeting just to kind of raise hell. And they were fired for insubordination, surprise, surprise. And so anyway, I came quickly convinced that while I thought they were asking me to join the board because of my banking background and expertise with charter school finance, what they really wanted was somebody big enough to be a referee. And so that was my first experience with a charter board of an individual school. When I got to the public charter school side, it was a matter that, having taken this school and getting it turned around and getting its building purchased with bond financing and all that kind of stuff, I'm sitting at my desk and the phone rings. And it's a voice on the other end of the phone. I can distinctly remember it was a young female, I remember. And the voice said, "This is the West Wing calling, can you hold?" And what would your reaction have been? Okay, so first thing I did was look around at my coworker. All right, so who's pulling my leg here? Voice comes back on the phone. It turned out it was a young lady who was in the West Wing. She was a liaison with the education department, and she was calling to tell me that my name had come up from several sources as a potential nominee for an upcoming vacancy on the DC Public Charter School Board. So, having had my name presented, she wanted to know very quickly if I was in fact nominated, would I agree to serve? And I said, well, sure, why not? So I was not sure what to expect next. That was in September of '03. Didn't hear another word, figured dead issue, whatever, and I wasn't monitoring the situation. I get another phone call in late March. Another female voice. "Mr. Nida, can you be at the Wilson building tomorrow?" I go, "So what for?" "Well, you're being sworn into the DC Public Charter School Board." I said, "Really? Okay. That's the first I've heard of this." There was never an interview. There was never an application. There was nothing between that first and second phone call. So I got sworn in by the mayor, Tony Williams, and started serving.